And that is why, if one of those ever becomes available, you give it all up. All of it. It's next on Locked on Jazz. Bum 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 bum.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
How are you? I am David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Today, we discuss the madness of some of our discussions of the past. Because if one of those becomes available, you go get it every time. And you have to have a top 10 talent. We talk overall talent, Walker Kessler. We talk Taylor Hendricks. And we talk, what do we do about our Utah Jazz? Because last night hurts the point differential. That's not great on the data. The old 50-point loss. I am David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked on Jazz. It's your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thank you so much for making Locked on Jazz your first listen. I greatly appreciate you. Thanks so much for doing so. And thank you for the everydayers. Those of you who have actually taken the time and either emailed me your rap or put it up on Twitter, that is awesome. Actually, if you have your rap and I'm anywhere in your top 5 and want to send it to me, it's actually, to be perfectly honest, like it's super good business data, and I would love to see it if you don't mind. So if you want to email me that at dlock09, I would love it. That is super great. I really appreciate you guys, and I appreciate you a lot on this season. Like, that's no fun. Like, losing by 50 is not fun. Frankly, watching Luka was pretty beeping awesome last night. I mean, there can't have been many halves of basketball in the history of the league that are that good. There has never been a triple-double with 40 points in just 32 minutes. Ever. I was surprised how many triple-doubles, 40-point triple-doubles there were in NBA history. So, I mean, on one level, like, I love, I find myself a little bit here. I love the game and being able to witness the game and root on your guys and watch them develop and do that. And and tomorrow on the show for the everydayers, we're going to talk about Keontae, and, we got to make sure we be a little careful here. And I love that story. And I love watching Keontae, try to play at home, and I think it was a lot for him. And talking to him pregame, and his eyes light up, and he's talking about his 2 buddies coming to the game, and he's all excited, and then he tries to be all cool for a second and say, it's the NBA. Like, no, Keontae, it's crazy cool. Like his friend's best. Let's remember how young he is. He didn't remember Dallas winning a championship. And he said, we just would come to games. It was just a really special treat for us to get to come to a game. Like if Steph or LeBron or, one of the greats of our game was playing, like, oh, like the guys you have to play against now, like those guys. Oh yeah, I got you, Keontae. So, to watch Luka last night was pretty incredible. And watching Kawhi and James and Paul on Friday, you want and then when we can compete with them, it's great. So, I appreciate you sticking with it. I don't find it to be torture. I find it actually still quite enjoyable to be a fan and root for it. Just losing by 50 sucks. Like, that's no fun, right? Oh God. And it just got away. We'll talk about it. The takeaway from last night goes back to some of the conversations last year, a little bit on Locked on Jazz. I remember it most vividly with DJ and PK when I was on their show, and they were like, if Luka's available, like, what would you give up? And I was like, everything. And they're like, no, but I'm like, no, everything. They're like, what about Lowry? I'm like, everything. Like, everything. Oh, you want all 8 first-round draft picks? Sure, have them. Like I said, like literally, if Luka was available, I would throw so much at them that they had to say yes. Like, you have to have a top 10, a top 20, and a top 50 player on your roster to win a title. You might even have to have a top 5. But I'll go top 10. Okay, so that's Jokic, Curry, Giannis, Embiid, Doncic, Tatum, Devin Booker, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. That's 8. Like, who's 9 and 10? Butler, maybe? Durant, LeBron still? Anthony Edwards, Anthony Davis? I mean, I think that's the question of why Anthony Davis is such a question all the time, is he actually has to, for them to win, he actually has to be a top 10 player because LeBron's actually probably not that anymore. What is your NBA top 10? Feel free to send it to me at DLock09 on Twitter or comment on X or on YouTube chat. So, right. So if you're going to win a title, here are the teams that have a chance to win a title. Denver, Jokic, Warriors, Curry. Doesn't feel like it because the rest of the team. Giannis, Milwaukee. Like, they have a chance to win because of Giannis. And now they have Lillard as a top 20 player. Embiid. They need Maxey to be a top 20 player because they have Tobias Harris top 50. Doncic. They have Kyrie as a top 20. They don't have a top 50. Tatum. Brown needs to be a top 20. He's probably not. Might be. Butler, when he's playoff Jimmy, seems to be top 10. Shea, that's why Oklahoma City's legit. Probably more legit than Minnesota, because Minnesota, I'm not sure that Ant's there yet, but he's close. Booker is legit. Durant's right on. Booker and Durant are your top 10 and your top 20. Like, Durant's probably, when he's on, is top 10, and Booker's too. And LeBron and AD are probably 11 and 12. And they're just a little off. But unless Austin Reeves is good, they don't have the next one. So, and those players don't get traded, actually. Right? Jokic is not getting traded. Curry's not getting traded. Giannis is not getting traded. Embiid's not getting traded. Doncic is not getting traded. Kawhi got moved. Forced it. Tatum, no. Butler, yes. Great move by Miami. Shea, yes. For one of these players. Booker, Durant, LeBron, and AD forced his way out. Like, those guys aren't forcing their way to Utah. So you got to draft them. Like, you're not trading for him. You're not signing a free agent, so you got to draft him. To get one of those guys, you probably need 3 or 4 shots at it. Where are they drafted? Jokic was a great second-round steal. Curry was a top 10. Giannis was a find, unique circumstance, no medicals, no knowledge. Embiid was 3. Doncic was 2. Kawhi was a find, 15. Tatum was a 3. Butler was a late first find. Shea was a find. Booker was a find. Okay? Ant was number 1. Durant was number 2. LeBron and AD were number 1. Like, you got to have that guy. You got to go, like, our first swing at it with Taylor at 9, Keontae at 16. I don't think we got it. He also, like, there might have been one of them in our, like, might have been one of our draft. Like, that, when we talk about winning a championship, that's how hard it is. You got to have one of those guys. And he was unreal last night. And that's just kind of the reality. I mean, we can chop this up any which way we want. It's a talent league. It's a talent league. Like, I love what Will Hardy's doing about the play hard and pass. I love the line in the sand. I love a talent league. Like, the culture stuff is super important. You can have the best culture in the world. If you don't have talent, you don't win. You can probably have a piss ass culture and you go get LeBron James and you're all right. Frankly, Dallas's organization's been a fairly good unmitigated disaster. They had Dirk Nowitzki and Luka Doncic. They've won a lot. All right. So we lost by 50. I'm not going up in arms. Like, I don't want to lose by 50. I also don't think it's the last time this year we're going to lose by 30. Like, we're talent deficient against great teams and great players. There are some things that I think need to be addressed. Like Will Hardy said at postgame, we don't seem to move as quickly as everyone else. Like, I go watch other games and the off-ball cuts are harder and faster. At least they look it on television. Like, it didn't look like we were moving as quickly. We play super slow with Keontae. Super slow. I think we're the slowest team in the league crossing half court on a possession. But if not, we're 29th. Like, there's got to be a little juice. And then defensively, there's got to be a little juice as well. Like, some of our guys don't exude that juice. And so we've got to got things we've got to figure out. But the truth, you don't lose by 50 is weird. Like I was going to say, you don't lose by 50 unless you're talent deficient, except for the fact that the last time the Jazz lost by 50 was to Dallas and they had a better roster. So I guess it just it got away last night. It was body blows. Let me explain that as we continue. To me, it was body blows last night. That's to me what the story of the night was. And we wilted on the body blows. But we also were just talent short last night. Walker has not had the year yet that we all want him to have. And I'm going to dig into why I think that is and what's going on with that a little bit. And then Taylor Hendricks has really shown pretty well, which is exciting. And we'll touch on that as well today. It's all here on Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Thank you so much for listening. We are free and available on all apps as well as on YouTube. And I really can't thank you enough for being a part of the program. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Intercap Lending. For those of you that are new to Locked On, you haven't heard Intercap Lending before. For those of you that are an everydayer, you've heard Intercap Lending a lot because they have been with us for over 5 years now. It's a great story. Intercap Lending is a lending company that's been around for like 40 years. They moved to Utah. They started to grow and have this great expansion. Brock Worthen is their really, really talented CEO. And they just kept going and going and going. And the great thing about lending is, well, why? Well, you're not necessarily, you're doing it with customer service. You're doing it with treatment of people. You're doing it with getting deals done. You're not like that. If you kind of know the business, that's the way. Like they started with like 2 branches, went to 15, and now they keep growing, and they're not exclusively just in Utah. And they just do things a little differently. They're hyper responsive. They embrace change. And for me, it's one of the best sponsorships we've ever done because they gave us our own personal loan officer so that you could have the experience and we knew exactly who you're getting. And I know exactly what you're getting. And if you're going over to Intercap Lending to get a loan done, you're going to work with Steve Carter, who's the best customer service person I've ever been around. His number is 385-800-8528. We have sent multitude of people from Locked On. I've gone twice. I've sent friends, our COO. This is not something I'm making up. And every single person comes back with the same reviews. So in a tough market right now, you need someone who's awesome. And that is Steve Carter. He'll walk you through the process. He'll help you with your best options. He'll line you up. He's super bright. Crazy nice. It's all over at Intercap Lending, NMLS number 190465. For more information, visit intercaplending.com. Email me at dlock09@gmail.com, and I'll set you up with that VIP meeting that you deserve as a member of the Locked On community and get you set up with Steve Carter over at Intercap. Today's show is also brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the number one largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. Easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. It's you against the numbers instead of betting thousands of other players, including pros and sharks. You just pick more or less. You take 2 or 6 star stat projections, watch the winnings, roll in it. It's really fun. Basketball season's here. You can actually do combo projections with football as well and choose LeBron and Travis Kelce combo of some sort if you want to just do the get SEO value on your Prize Picks. Prize Picks even offers reboot policies so that entries stay to play even if one of your players gets injured for football or basketball games. If your player exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second half, the player is rebooted. It's all at Prize Picks. And right now with Locked Up, the promo code Locked On NBA for a first deposit match up to $100. So go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. That's prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Thanks so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. I love our national 24/7 stream of Locked On Sports Today. One story after another. I was showing it to Ken Mendez, our engineer, last night. He's like, that's super cool. It is super cool. You can get it at YouTube under Locked On Sports Today. Just throw it up on the TV, cast it over there. You can get it on the News On app on your Roku as well. It'll be launching in other big name places here shortly. So we continue to grow and expand. All right, here's what I think happened last night. I think we just had body blows. I actually didn't think we were awful to start the game. There's plenty of, I was talking to Kelly Olynyk last night as we were walking out of the arena. There's plenty of times as the play-by-play announcer rooting for you, everyone that I throw off my headset, turned around and lose it. Oh my God, we are terrible. What was that? I never did that last night. In the first quarter, I really just thought Luka was totally masterful. I mean, for the first second, he had 3 minutes in the game. I think he had 8 points, 3 rebounds. And I thought we were actually They were unstoppable. So their offensive rating was a 150 and we were 107. And this is where, like, I just think we have to pause and understand. Like, we didn't have Lowry, we didn't have Jordan, we didn't have Kelly. Those are our three best offensive players. And when they put on an offensive assault, and we just don't have we don't even, there's not a guy to go to on a given possession right now. Keontae's our leading scorer for the last 6 games since everybody's been out. Like that, he's not ready for that. And he's shooting, probably 30% while doing it. But I think the last 6 games, Lowry's been out. I think, and Colin Sexton was our other leading scorer. He didn't get a field goal last night. Like, we're just not there. We just didn't have it. So I just think we got worn out. Like, Lowry in the last, we got body blow. Like, I would classify this as a heavyweight fighter, body blow, body blow, body blow, Luka blow, Luka blow, Luka blow. And then certainly we wilted. Like, you can't lose by 50 if you don't wilt a little bit. And certainly we wilted. But I actually kind of get it. Like, I did not leave last night with some feeling of like, oh my gosh, that's the worst thing I've ever seen. Holy beep. Luka was unbelievable. They have way more talent than we do on the floor. We're short our 3 best offensive players. When we don't have Lowry, we're minus 14 per 100 possessions. Our offense is in the 8th percentile when Lowry's not on the floor. It's not crazy. If you look at the top 100 players in the NBA, we have Lowry was ranked 33 on the Ringer's latest list, and Walker's ranked 89. Okay? Charlotte has one in LaMelo Ball and then no others, and they're 6-13 and have beat Washington twice. Washington has Kuzma and no others. We had 2. Spurs have 3. Portland has 4. Houston's got 4. Like, we're in the midst. We've traded our 4 best players in the last 16 months. Like, this is an unfortunate reality of where we are. And then there's small designated windows where you get a chance to try to bring your pieces together and add to the mix. And then it takes time for them to develop, as we're watching with Keontae. Like, I'm very positive about what Keontae can be as a player. He's not helping us win at all, because no rookies help you win. Maybe Chet Holmgren, who sat out for a year, but Victor's not helping the Spurs win right now. Brandon Miller's really good in Charlotte. He's not helping them win. Scoot's not helping Portland win. Asur's not helping Detroit win. Like, rookies don't help you win. They're fun to watch. They're good. They're going to get better. It's really neat and enjoyable. They don't help you win. Like, Keontae's taking our highest shot volume in the last 6 games. That's insanity. He's not ready for that. Like, we're a little bit into my worst nightmare with Keontae, which is we throw him out there and it's just too much. And then what do? But it's too much right now because there's no Kelly, there's no Jordan, and there's no Lowry. By the way, when we don't have Lowry, we're minus 14, 13.9. When we don't have Lowry and Jordan, we're actually in minus 13.1. We actually get better would take Jordan out very lightly, but our offense slips to the 2nd percentile. And then when you take Jordan, Lowry, and Kelly out, our offense is a 95. It's in the 0 percentile. Like, you go play Luka going bonkers without those guys, it's too much. It's just body blow after body blow. It's kind of where we were at the end of the first quarter. Our offensive rating was 100. I don't think anybody failed. I think that's kind of what we started. Simone Fontecchio, John Collins, Omer Yurtseven, Ochai Agbaji, Keontae George, and we tried. And give the bench crew credit. The defensive rating when Colin, Taylor, and Chris Dunn were on the floor, or actually Colin, Taylor, was about 100. It was really pretty good through the first half. The third quarter, we just got overwhelmed. It just kept coming, right? So it's a night. We have to have to endure this. You go into each night for the fun of the entertainment, and you hope you don't lose 147-97. But you also have to have a long-term view. And if you want my biggest concern, and we'll talk about this tomorrow a little bit more, my biggest concern right now is okay, that's a lot on Keontae, and why is Walker not having quite the impact that we want him to have? So let me touch on on that. And then I think the positive is, like, I thought Taylor held himself really well. So let's touch on Walker for a minute. So Walker doesn't have quite the zest and joy that he seemed to have if you take his year's work. Now, that could be because that elbow injury happened on game one, and he didn't look quite right. And he said, he couldn't go up and block with two hands. He couldn't do a lot of that stuff. And last night, he looked super frustrated again, and that could be because of Luka. Like, there was a moment in the game last night where he literally looks over coach like, what am I supposed to do? And the game plan was for him to stop the ball with Luka, and then they're rolling the big behind him and lobbing and dunking on him, and he looks bad, and he's looking at coach like, what do I do? And I'm sure that 2 plays earlier, he had left Luka, and Luka had scored, and the coach was like, don't leave Luka. I mean, Will already said it. Luka puts on a masterclass of decision-making, and frankly, Walker Kessler was on the wrong side of that decision-making for much of the night. Luka averages 31 points a game. In the last 10, he's averaging 34. In the last 2 games, he's averaging 50. Not quite 40. Because he does this to people. And Walker just looked so frustrated last night. And that's a look that we're seeing out of Walker more than we've ever seen before. So the first thing that's happening to our 22-year-old kid is that the pressure and burden of trying to be great is super hard. And nothing, because there was no expectation last year in anything he was doing, none of it was hard. Right? And when he got thrown underneath the basket by Rudy Gobert on the first play and dunked, it was like, okay, well, I'm just learning the NBA. And when Nikola Jokic just beat the crap out of him to a point in which he ran down the floor and he said, Coach, I'm trying. It was cute. But none of those things are cute to him right now because it's expectations and he wants to play better and he wants to do more. But if we actually go back and look at Walker last year, like, I think we forgot, like, in the last game of the year, from my memories, Nick Claxton kicked the crap out of him. Like, there's still massive learning pieces of his puzzle for him to figure out. If my memory, like, we lost to Milwaukee by 30, and if I remember correctly, like, Brook Lopez annihilated him. And we all just thought it was fine. And Walker thought it was fine because he was learning. And now Walker doesn't think it's fine anymore. This is just this is super interesting to watch. He's a perfectionist. And as Will Hardy said the other day, he's one of the nicest guys on the planet. And that's both his strength and his weakness. There's also some basketball X's and O stuff that makes it super hard on Walker right now. And we'll touch on that as we continue, as we are still just getting started after a 50-point blowout. But Locked On is still here for you. Still loving it. And still fired up to bring you the stories as much as a 50-point blowout makes it that you might not have wanted to click the button today. So thank you for doing so and being a part of the program. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel's got a great deal going for you right now if you're a new user, new customer. $150 in bonus bets with any $5 money line bet. So pick the winner, like Dallas last night, though you probably would wish you had the spread on that one. And you get $150 if your team wins. If you're thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in the action than now. FanDuel's got it all. Spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel's an official partner of the NFL. FanDuel is the official sportsbook of Locked On. And tonight, we've got the play-in game, the semifinals, the first ever semifinals. Indiana and Milwaukee in Vegas. Bucks, a 5.5-point favorite. Lakers are a 2-point favorite over the Pels. In-season MVP Dame Lillard is the Weber State Wildcat is a plus 380. Giannis is a plus 430. And Milwaukee is the favorite at plus 160. A Milwaukee Laker final would be everything they dreamed of. It is all over at FanDuel. Make sure you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. Thank you very much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. I don't know if you want to go listen to Locked On Mavericks, but Nick's pretty good. And see what they're having to say, because Luka was pretty great. All right. Here's the other one on Walker. Walker does not generate his own offense yet. Like, that's not his game. Like, he can get the ball down there, make a play, do some things, but he does not generate his own offense yet. So one of the ways Walker gets stuff is the way Derek Lively did last night, is on pick and rolls, or Derek Jones did. But we're last in the league at running pick and rolls. Like, we run the fewest amount of pick and rolls of any team in the league because we actually don't have guards that are very good at running pick and rolls. This is the correct decision, by the way. Like, I guess that's my point. Like, this isn't because like, well, there's something wrong with Will Hardy's strategy. No, like we don't run very many pick and rolls because when you look at our guards, it's not what they do particularly well. Chicago runs the most pick and rolls in the league, and we ran the fewest for the longest time at 50, and then we've kind of burst out the last few nights and started running pick and roll. So now we're like 24th in the league, and we run like 60 of them a night. And if you like, that's just like and that could be that we run, frankly, the way it works, that could be we run 3 on a given play. If you want like literally pick and rolls that lead to something on a given play, it's not that dramatically different of where we rank, but just so you have it, we're 28th in the league in that. Okay. So like if times we run a pick and roll and it actually yields to be the end of the play, we do that like 30. Well, that's how Walker's going to score. That's how Walker's going to put up the bicep, tricep, chest muscles of the workout, the glory muscle, the glory numbers. Like we can go dig in, and Walker's doing an incredible job of protecting the rim. He's back up as one of the elite rim defenders in the NBA, and he's really playing pretty well there. But we're going to look at it and say, well, why isn't Walker scoring? And why isn't Walker having an offensive impact? And he's not having quite the impact he had a year ago, though our memory is kind of like Walker's. We don't remember that he struggled ever. And part of the reason is we don't have pick and roll guards. Like if you actually go look at the rankings of the top like 70 pick and roll guards in the NBA, our 2-point guards are Taylor Horton-Tucker and Keyonte George, and they rank of the guys who've run the top 70 pick and rolls or 60 pick, whatever you want to do, is 60, 70 pick and rolls in the league. They rank near the bottom of the NBA in efficiency, and it's why we don't run a lot of pick and rolls. Like that's right now. Keyonte, I think, is now up to like the 17th most amount of pick and rolls of anyone in the league. Like he's now right. Like we're really running pick and roll. We ran 90 of them the other night with him, and Taylor is now up to about 51st. So we have guys that are now in that kind of grouping. But if you go rank the top 60 guys in the NBA in their points per chance, we rank near the bottom. We don't have guards that have this figured out yet. And this is not a criticism. Because when you look at the bottom 5 guys in the list, they're Paolo Banchero, second year, Jeremy Sohan, second year, Taylor Horton-Tucker, first year trying to be point guard, Keyonte George, rookie, Shaedon Sharpe, second year, Killian Hayes, Jalen Green, like Cade Cunningham, guys that are all going to be really, really good one day. But it's super hard to run pick and roll and understand how to do it in the NBA. Like the guy that's in there that's interesting is Chris Paul. He doesn't have a roller anymore, or he's done. And Jalen Brunson not being in there is really interesting too, is being in this like bottom 20. But like the bottom pick and roll guys in the league are Paolo Banchero, year 2, Jeremy Sohan, year 2, Keyonte George, Taylor Horton-Tucker, Shaedon Sharpe, Chris Paul, Killian Hayes, Jalen Green. Like when you got the bottom 9 guys and all of them are in their first or second year of doing this, there's a reason. It's super hard. So that limits what Walker's able to do. All right, final one. I'm super pleased with what I've seen out of Taylor. Now, yesterday, I'm not going to yesterday I did what we're watching in the next 20. If you listen to the show, thank you to the Everydayers. What we're going to watch in the next 20 games. And I didn't include Taylor because I think another 20 games in the G League would be really valuable to him, and then have him play the final 40 games of the year for us at 15 to 20 minutes a night. And I don't quite know how we're going to do that, but because of our roster, but that would be just isolating Taylor, ignore the rest of the roster and the rest of the team. That seems to me what's like the best option. And I will admit that like the way he played the last few nights makes you wonder like whether you accelerate that at all. I don't think so. I still think let's not forget why this has happened. There's just been absolutely fabulous growth in his 9 games in the G League that has made him just so much more of a viable player that looks so much better than he did in camp and in the preseason and things like that, that let's keep doing that. Like that's working. Like, I think you can get a little greedy right now and decide like, oh my gosh, we're getting blown out. Taylor Hendricks looks already at 2 steals and a block, and let's go. Let's roll him out for 25 and ignore. Let's roll him out for 35 in the G League for another 20 games. And then if he continues to make the progress he's making, then yeah, let's roll him out for 15 to 18 to 20 minutes a night starting at game 40. Yeah, I'm up for that. But let's not forget how this has worked. But it's super exciting. His length is terrific. His defense is good. Some natural instincts there. And his offense is a little passless. And but I think he'll figure it out. Like it's a little dribble passless, but that's because I think that's what he has as an option right now. And I think he'll figure it out if we keep giving him time, June. But that's really exciting. Like that's one of our a top 10, a top 20, and top 50. Like, which are they going to be? And then what are the pieces around them? Who's our Kentavious Caldwell-Pope? Who's our young Christian Brown? Right? Who's our Michael Porter, Aaron Gordon? They got a top 10, a top 20, and 2 top 50s. They won a title. Right? Minnesota's got a top 10 in Ant, maybe. Top 20 in Cat, top 50 in Rudy. Who's our Jaden McDaniels? Who's our Mike Conley veteran? Who's our Naz Reid? They're the number 1 seed in the West right now. It's a little, we're not going to pronounce them champions, but they're number 1 seed. They're going to stay the number 1 seed. It's kind of cool to watch this all happen. Just a little rough last night. Thanks very much for being a part of Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast in the Utah Jazz. Friday edition, Ask LOJ tomorrow. You guys are great. And we'll update points gained. Thanks very much for being a part of the show. I really appreciate you. We're sending you over to the first ever 24/7 national sports channel, Locked On Sports Today on YouTube. Add it to your routine. Please subscribe. Hit the bell button on ours. Before you go, hit the bell button. Hit the bell button. Hit the